Hey guys, just wanted to give you a short update what we've been up to, what we've been working on in between work. We work full-time, so trying to build a property, which is almost a full-time job on top of a full-time job. It's hard to get a lot done, but this is what we've done. As far as what we've gotten done, solar panels still the same. We moved the trailer, put one of the workbenches in front of it, so we have an outdoor workbench for a little bit more room. We organized underneath the panels and I fixed one of the wires, so we now have full power output. As far as the shed goes, we've got a lot done inside, but you notice we moved the dog pen to the back. This was something that I've been planning on doing because the shed's going to be expanded in front, but they now have the great big area out back, which keeps their working a little bit quieter at night. The area that's in front and our mess of lumber, yay for free lumber at work, but when you got scrap lumber, you got to deal with a lot of scrap. The area in front, that's now going to be where we're going to have the extension for the shed. I wonder if we get the funds to build it. The panels will go on the roof of the new shed. And as far as inside the shed, we've gotten quite a bit done. I apologize the mess. The dog just spilled their water and got mud all over, but we now have, well, not quite done yet, but we now have a wall that will separate. It'll go all the way up to the top, and then I'll have a mesh for ventilation to keep the dust out, so the dogs no longer have access at all to the utility area. Reason I had to do this is, one, I didn't want them getting into anything, but in the bathroom, our lovely temporary fix, they chewed the back of the shower off, so yeah, that was kind of the last straw. As far as the bathroom goes, it's pretty much all done. Everything's dusty though because they had a hole in the wall. But it's not too bad. It's getting there. I still need to put trim up and paint the ceiling fully. It's got the primer. But for a small bathroom, it's definitely not bad. We got a full recirc shower. And now in the shed, it's almost all aligned other than the ceilings. So it's definitely a lot nicer. I actually made the dog door instead of buying one because the last dog door wasn't durable enough. This is actually a piece of conveyor belt. It works extremely well. It's flexible. Doesn't seal amazing, but it's a lot better than the dog door that got chewed off. Yes, we do have an air conditioner being off-grid. A lot of people ask, can you have air conditioners? That keeps this shed at whatever temp you want, and it only draws like 450 watts when running, so we have more than enough power. As far as getting to the utility, there will be a door right here. You can see the screw line, and then a foot over from here we'll have another one, and there'll be a little access door for us to get in that the dogs can't get in. As far as power and stuff goes, we got our primary inverter that powers the shed and the dome. And then we got this guy here. Whenever we eventually do put up the other shed, this is a 240 volt inverter, so I can run washer, dryer, welders, anything bigger, which is really, really nice. Eventually I'll be probably upgrading to a 48 volt system, and this inverter for the dome will be upgraded, so it'll be 240 as well. But until then, we'll make do with what we got. We got our massive battery bank. It's roughly, what is it, 28 kilowatts hours, I believe. It's 24 volt 1000 amp hour, so 28.8 volts full. So that's quite a bit of power. It gives us power to run pretty much anything we want. We right now have 6 kilowatts, so 6,000 watts that runs off these 6 solar inverters, but that will be changing soon. I actually have another inverter coming that will replace all these solar controllers. Not all of them, but one bigger solar controller will be able to replace 3 of these, and I'll take one of these controllers and it'll power the shed security camera system, the shed heating, and possibly the shed lighting. So that'll all be completely separate. Why do we have to do security cameras? Well, we're out in the middle of nowhere, so if we left for a weekend and we had some not so nice individuals wander through, they'd see no vehicles and they'd have full access to get what they want, and we don't want that to happen. The security cameras I got are accessible anywhere in the world. They're core to themselves, server, as well as to a cloud, so multiple backup. This is our current water setup. The bottom one supplies power to everything, including the dome, and the top one's for the recirc shower. That is actually going to be moved and redone, and it's going to go on the back wall below the water heater. I got a bunch of stuff just to keep out of the dog's way until I get the stuff organized, and the water heater that we picked up still needs to be hooked up, but I need a bigger propane tank to do that. Right now the little 2.5 gallon hot water heater works. It's just it kind of runs out at the end of the shower, so it'd be nice to have the big one. It's just we don't have a big enough propane tank to run that right now. So once we get a bigger tank, that'll be hooked up and that'll supply hot water to the dome and the shed. I'm going to do an insulated hot water line, heavily insulated, that'll run underground to the dome. Not the best setup, but it keeps all the utilities out of the dome, gives us more room in the dome, and I don't have to worry about trying to plumbing a vent flue for that into the dome, which we're trying to keep any punctures through the dome at a minimum if we can, just because it's a waterproof shell. Any opening you put in it, you have a chance for a leak, and well, that's never fun. We do have multiple systems for heat in the shed to keep the batteries warm. The shed is domed up to, I think it's 3 feet with dirt, so it rarely gets that cold in here, but we have a backup emergency heater. We've got the diesel heater, which will be moving to the back wall once I move the recirc shower setup, so that'll be moving. And then this is a little 12-volt battery that will be powering the security cameras, and it's currently powering, well, the heater. Right now I've got a charge port and then just direct power out from the controller inside to the heater. It works great. It's very low cost, and it uses about a third is the price of diesel versus propane. And hopefully soon I can actually get into making biodiesel, so that'll be a project. But right now it just runs off of a small auxiliary tank that, like I mentioned, will be moved up to here. Just get more stuff out of the dog's area, and it'll clean up the shed, make it look a little bit nicer, especially when that wall is up. So our storage area that is currently kind of our shop will have more room. Eventually what we're going to do is we're going to have a big pantry here, a big pantry here, and this will be our storage area for pretty much anything in the dome. It'll be extra pantry storage, it'll be extra possibly battery storage if I get back into the batteries. Right now it's been a very trying market, so I haven't done that much. If anybody's interested in lithium batteries, give me a holler, because I got a couple extra and I got a bunch of inverters as well if anybody's interested. But besides that, we've been busy. Also, you can see a slight discolor here. Our wonderful dogs in their they don't like being separated from us, especially with me being home most of the summer. Last summer when we both go to work, they don't like it, so they found a small spot in the floor that was uneven and they started pulling the floor up, so we had to patch that. You can see the nice clean 2 strips here, those they ripped out completely, and they took a couple chunks of the one behind it, so that was filled with essentially a caulking compound to hold it down and replace the pieces that they fixed. Love the dogs, but they are definitely trying. As far as, come on Roscoe, you need to move. As far as what we've done besides that, the dome hasn't really changed much. We did a little bit of organizing, and we've been working on getting funds to do the insulation. We're very close to getting the insulation system, so if anybody's local to Snowflake, we'll be doing small spray foam projects for small cabins or sheds or anything like that at a lot lower cost than the ridiculous amount they want for a large company to come and do it. Besides that, it's been a lot of working. So with working full-time at the lumber yard, we don't have that much time. We get Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and usually Friday's catch-up day and Sunday's laundry day. So we lose about half a day for each of those days doing that. I did make that desk. I got that great big block there I want to turn into something. I'm not sure what, but if you have any ideas, feel free to post them. It's 2 feet by 2 feet by about 14 inches, and I want to figure out what to do with it. It's just a really good piece of wood, so I was hoping to do some kind of cool project. Justin's project that we did with one of the scrap pieces from wood is he made a chair. I gotta make it a little bit smoother so it's not as pokey when you sit down at it, but it was a rough attempt at a chainsaw, and it was a free log that would have been ground up and shipped to a pellet plant. So we were able to at least use a little bit of it. The scrap here, we try to use what we can. The only thing I throw is little bitty tiny pieces. And another thing we were hoping to pick up soon, if I can get the funding, is this, our own pellet press. So I can take any scrap like this, grind it up into sawdust, and run through a pellet press, so we have free pellets for the grill and free pellets for heating the dome and potentially the underground building if I ever need to heat it. It's one of those things that we get the lumber pretty much free from work. It's scrap lumber, so you got a lot of knot holes and it's not very straight and a lot of cracks, but we sort through it, and that's how we did all the insulation, not the insulation, the siding inside the shed, as well as I made the desk, and I got a couple other things I made with it, so it helps us out a lot. This, if I were to buy it from the store, if it was perfect lumber, it would be quite expensive. Since it's default lumber, as in they throw it away, it's got issues sometimes, so you got to work around it, but it's free and it gives us a lot of opportunities to work on projects. Otherwise, we got a lot of stuff we want to do. We've been working on fencing, so the entire south side of the property is fenced, and we've got the west side fenced up to about there. You can't probably see it in the video, but tomorrow we're going to probably pick up and go from there all the way almost to the driveway. It's just fencing is time consuming and it's fairly expensive, so it's one of those things we had to do because we had issues with neighbors trespassing on a road that's not a road. They illegally put in a crossroad before this property had a house on it and used it to access the wash behind the property. Since we put up a house and the county told us to shut it down because it was an illegal road, we haven't had any issues except for, you know, the couple neighbors that are always trying to push your buttons. Well, we got a couple neighbors that do that. And with the fence up, they can't do that anymore. They aren't very happy at us, but it's not their property. And we try to keep it as natural as we can. That's why we don't have mini roads or anything going through the property. But they thought it was free range to go through and do burnouts, rip up a bunch of the property, and we don't want that. So as much as I didn't really want to put up a fence, it'll help keep out the neighbors and it'll help keep out the free range cattle. So eventually, hopefully by fall, we'll have the entire property fenced, and you can probably see the old posts from a cross fence. We'd like to fill that in as well, so that whenever we do get our yearly beef cow, or whatever we get for pets, we can have a 20-acre parcel over there for property for them to eat on, and then a small area fenced around the building site, and then the remainder of the 20 acres for them as well. I know out here it looks rather barren, but you can still, on 20-acre chunks, do a couple cattle or a horse and a cattle or whatever. So we got room out here for a couple critters. We've been really wanting to do that. The circle you see here is where we originally had our tent. I'm really debating about putting up a greenhouse there, and I really want to, but priority right now is the spray foam. It's one of those things we got to get done before winter, because if we get that done, we can start building the loft this winter and actually make the dome a house instead of a kind of live-in big flat apartment. Once I get the loft, it'll add an extra couple hundred square foot, plus it'll give us an actual bedroom, an actual bathroom, an actual kitchen, and up top we'll have an actual living room on top of the main room, which is kind of a living room, but up top in the loft is going to be where we have our computers and entertainment. So right now that's about a 22-foot circle. Really debating about putting up a small geodesic greenhouse in there, but right now, cost-wise, I'm going to hold off. Probably put up a small aquaponics setup with a couple of PVC pipes I got from work, and be able to run, I think I figured 36 plants in the tubes that I had. So that might be a later on project this summer as well. Always projects, always looking for stuff to do. Problem is I work too much, so do what we can with the time we have. Besides that, if you have any questions, feel free to post them and we'll answer them. I can answer a lot off Discord as well. We always have access to Discord. Feel free to check it out. It's got all of our projects. It's got more information than YouTube and Instagram does. And we answer it all the time. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to check our Discord out and send us a couple questions. Otherwise, currently just coming into spring, so stuff's starting to turn green. You can see the bush here. We got green coming through, but we haven't had any rain at all. So it's always amazing out here. Incredibly low moisture. You got little flowers even starting to come up, which is kind of neat. But zero rain. It amazes me that the plants can survive with this and still turn green and flower. Hopefully this, what is it, a week and a half, we might get rain. And then the summer rains start. So one of the projects we have to do is, the way the dome is done, you got the outside shell, it's just fully membrane, and then right on the bottom above the concrete, we have essentially a rubber roofing material that you paint on. And I want to clean that off and do another layer just before the summer monsoon rains come, so that we can guarantee that we're not going to get rain underneath. We had a little bit of issues with that because when we put the dome up, we were trying to put it up in the middle of the rain, so it didn't seal amazingly well, but we got it pretty good. We've only got one small leak in the back right around the corner over there, that we get a little bit of damp spot on the concrete. Besides that, it's been great. With the insulation too, I'll be able to put in a small mini split air conditioner and keep the dome nice and cool. The sunshade that you see currently inside that rock pile, and there's one equally around the side, and you can kind of see the rock pile here, and there's one over there. There'll be 4 posts, and that sunshade will come out, well, and obviously shade the dome and keep it cooler. With this big window in the summer, the sun kind of beats in and warms up the dome rather quick. So with that sunshade actually up, it'll help drastically keep the dome cooler. It's just we're trying to find posts out here that are reasonable, and trying to find 16 to 20 foot posts is kind of tricky. And the ones that we found have been very expensive because of the price of lumber right now. So I've got a lead from friends that we found that are taking down an old building, and we might be able to repurpose an old couple posts to get the sunshade up at least, which would be awesome. And then underneath that sunshade, we're going to be doing essentially a big kind of oval in front of the dome. That's going to be an outdoor kitchen, a table for the shooting range, and just a general outdoor entertainment area. Right now it slopes pretty good, so we're probably going to rent an excavator to dig out more of the underground building, make it a little bit bigger, add the bathroom and maybe that 10 by 10 bedroom. And all the dirt we're taking out of it is going to come to level this out, and then we'll have a returning wall at the back side, so that we'll have a nice area, and then I'll do steps that'll go down to the shooting range. Do we use it a lot? Yes and no. Ammo's fairly expensive. 22 is really cheap, so we use a lot of that, but it's something fun to do, and it's cheap, and out here it's very common to see, so it's kind of nice. Also, it acts like a fire break. I need to actually probably weed eat it again to get the grass down a bit, but we were trying to do a fire break from the driveway all the way across the property to that corner, and then we'll have one following the fence line, so we have a cross all the way around, and then the perimeter will have all the way around. Right now we are actually extremely dry and under a fire warning, so if we had a fire come through here, we could probably battle it because we don't have that much for trees or anything. But the ground fires move extremely fast, and if we're at work, well, the dome is fire resistant, but if you got a ground fire, you're always pushing your luck. The shed right now has a decent ring around it with no grass, but you still have a wooden structure, so it would be probably not very good if we had a ground fire out here. The property could really use, honestly, a controlled fire to get rid of all the old dry brush and help fertilize the soil again, but it's one of those things that's been so dry and so windy, it's something that you'd want to attempt right now. Before we did that too, we'd have to trim out all the trees so that the branches aren't touching the ground, because if they're touching the ground, you got a chance for killing the tree, because the bottom branches actually could catch fire. So we've got not that many on the property, but it would take at least a couple weekends to trim them. We got a lot more on the south side of the property that are decent sized trees I really would not want to lose. We don't have that many trees on the property anyways, because 100 years ago they pretty much clear cut this property. So there's an idea back in the past that if you clear cut the property, the cattle have more grass. Well, when you clear cut the property and don't remove the tree, you have a dead tree that the cow won't eat the grass around anyways. So it's a weird thing they did, and they still do it out here, and I don't get it, but it's what they do. I understand the aspect, if you cleared it and the grasses grow, you got more room for the cattle, but it gives them somewhere to shelter from the weather, the rain, and keep a little bit cool because of the shade. So personally, I'd leave the trees if I had the pasture, but I understand the reason they do it. Otherwise, I can't really think of anything. Like I said, we've been working a lot. Hopefully that'll change once we get some more projects that bring in some income. And hopefully we get some rain, because it'd be nice to see this all green again, and we'd be out of the fire warning, so that would be really nice to see. But until then, if you have any questions, I've already rambled on enough, feel free to ask. Thanks again. Take care, guys.